everyone. Welcome to Vicious Cycle, the podcast about periods and the people who get them. I'm Kate.
I'm Meg H.
I'm Meg T.
And I have to say, as we were getting ready for this episode, we got an alert that my father, Andrew Elston, has liked our Facebook page.
Hi, Andrew.
So I don't know if Dad is listening, but that just kind of gave me a nice little pep in my step before we started recording.
Also, a shout out to my auntie, and I will try not to curse as much.
Ooh, have you been getting some feedback?
I got some feedback that I cursed a lot in episode 3 when I was really drunk.
You were pretty drunk.
Just gonna say hi to my mom, who's been a longtime listener.
Oh, long time Liz.
She follows us on Instagram and comments.
She does. She's the best.
I love it. You know, we love our family members and we love all of our listeners. In this episode, we're so excited. We're going to share what we all discovered when we tracked our menstrual cycles.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if there's a song for like cycle tracking. We can, I had in my head, cycle tracking, qu'est-ce que c'est? But I don't know about that.
Keep going.
Talking Heads, that's a good one.
Bleed, 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 bleed it away.
Do not have sex today. You are ovulating.
I was thinking something like, my cycle.
My cycle.
I want to track my cycle.
My cycle. In this episode, we're also going to tell some travel stories since we haven't seen each other in a while.
Yes.
Missed you guys so much.
I know. We embraced.
And we're going to listen to some phone calls and then do a Why I Cried this week. But before we get into cycles and all that, let's just do a quick catch up. Listeners, just so you know, we've been pumping out weekly episodes for the last couple weeks, but pulling back the production curtain, the three of us haven't actually been in the same room for weeks.
Yes.
Nor the same country.
Maybe since we launched?
Almost, probably, yeah. Because
Yeah.
we pre-recorded a bunch of episodes, and now we're finally in the room together. So excuse us if we're a little giddy. It's just that we love each other so much.
So excited.
So we've all been on various trips and summer vacations, and so we thought we'd start this episode with a super important question about our travels and our periods.
Yes.
Meg H, where you bled?
I'm trying to remember if I bled in Hawaii. I definitely bled in
fancy.
the BKY, Brooklyn.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure that's what they call it.
I was like, Burger King?
Yes.
BKY. Did I get those letters right? I mean, are we talking about our bleeding experiences
Yes,
on
we
these
are.
vacations?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, just
So-
update us on how your period's been.
It's been all right. It's interesting because I think before I went on break, there was a really weird period where I started early, which never happens, but I was also kind of going through a lot. There was a lot going on, end of the year, my sister's wedding, all this crazy stuff. So that might have had something to do with it. And then usually what will happen is, since I'm on birth control, I'll start the Tuesday of my placebo week. And so I think I messed up a pill, so I started the Wednesday of my vacation. And I started while I was out with my good friend Alex Harris. Shout out, Alex.
Aw,
Hope
hey,
you're listening. I love you so much. We had brunch, and then we were walking around Williamsburg. And I, felt a complete drain of energy. I think I was wearing a tampon preemptively because I knew it was coming. Do you guys ever do that?
No.
Really?
No. It's
That's
too dry.
interesting.
It's too dry.
Well, and I'm really considering some Thinx underwear or some alternate situation. But I just felt like an immediate drain of energy, and we were walking around a lot. In New York, you kind of walk around more than you realize.
Right, totally.
So it was weird. Just all of a sudden, I started to realize all the people around me and all the big buildings and all the cars, and I was like, oh my God, I need to go home right now. So I think it was, I've been kind of focusing on my energy levels in general, but I think what I realize is when you're on your period, you just don't have that extra energy to put forward. I didn't have any energy left, so I was really trying to just focus on being positive and be like, it's okay, you'll get home soon. You can manage this.
Yeah.
You can do it. And then I went to Whole Foods and bought a bar of chocolate. I bought a salad for lunch and an entire bar of chocolate. And I went home and just like laid on a couch for a couple hours just to regain my strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my bleeding story.
Aw.
It was
Meg
okay.
Tro, where you bled?
Where I bled. So I recently went on a road trip with my husband through, we left San Francisco and ended up in Missoula, Montana. And I happened to bleed through Wyoming and Montana.
Wow.
So 2-state period.
Nice.
Yeah. And it started when we were in Yellowstone. So there's a little part of me that will always be in Yellowstone.
Yellowstone now is
Wow.
Redstone.
Okay.
I'll see myself out.
It's Pinkstone at
The
best.
door's right behind you.
And it was so we have this camper van. So I have now had 2 periods while camper vanning, and I'm like, this is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
But this time I was prepared, like, because I knew I was gonna be like getting it. So I was like, okay, make sure I have all the stuff. Hand sanitizer.
Important.
Last time I went camping, didn't have that. Suffered greatly for it. The scary thing was, so doing the math, it was a 10-day trip, and so I had to like calculate how many tampons will I need.
Oh, right.
I
all
also-
that calculating
Yeah.
math
Yeah.
when you're traveling.
And the thing is, when
I just dumped a box in my luggage.
Yeah.
I was like,
take them all. So doing the math, the thing that I always wear when I'm on my period is I always wear a liner.
Sure.
Because
A
I
leg
just, there's no way I'm not going to leak.
Wow.
And so I packed just enough of those. And I thought I had more than enough tampons. I did not.
Oh, no.
And so it was almost there. If I had one more, it would have been totally fine. But instead, I had this super on the flight home. And I'm just like, yep, I'm losing it. I'm losing it.
Oh,
And I'm just
no.
like trying to keep it all together. But I was just like bleeding into my pants on the plane. I was like, wow. I really feel like my period knows that I'm talking about it a lot. So it like wants to put on a good show. And I'm just like, don't do that.
What do you mean put up? What do you mean?
I just feel like recently in the past like 3 or 4 months since we've started this journey, that it has just been like getting like bigger and louder.
Your period.
Mine
Yeah.
has been getting softer and shorter.
It's like, I don't want you to have anything to talk
He's
about.
like, stop talking about me.
I'm fine. I'm nice. No, yeah, I just feel like obviously she's a she, and I just feel like she's like just, trying to show off.
Interesting.
I'm like, baby, we're good.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be around for a long time.
Have you guys ever asked a stewardess or
Flight
I think the
attendant.
flight attendant?
attendants.
Thank you. I'm like, what's the gender neutral
A
term?
lady steward.
steward.
The lady pilot.
Have you ever asked one of them for a tampon? I wonder if they have like an emergency
they have
pack,
to.
right?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
they
know
do.
so many. We could do a whole episode on flight getting your period
Okay.
stories.
Well,
Yeah.
that kind of comes to my where
boy,
I bled.
Kate.
Oh,
Here we
hey,
go.
Kate, where you bled?
Thanks for asking. Okay, so you guys know this.
no.
I was in Russia for the World Cup, which was amazing and a great time. And I'll talk a little bit about it and why I cried because there was a lot of it because everyone was coming together. So I knew that I was 3.5 weeks. I was going to get my period in Russia, which also made me start thinking about all of the euphemisms that we learned in episode 2 about Russians.
Yes.
So like the Russians are in
Oh,
the
yeah.
basement or the Russians are here. I have guests from Krasnodar, which is the city where like a civil war of the communist army happened or whatever. And so, by the way, every time I heard the city Krasnodar, I giggled when I was in Russia. But so I was figured that I would, get my period while I was there. So as I'll talk about, my cycle has been super, super reliable and like clockwork. So in my like fancy little calendar that I took with me, like my analog calendar that I brought, like a planner, a paper planner, because I'm very organized when I travel. And just in case, we can't access our emails or our, flight info, I had everything written down and I had a whole calendar in this notebook. And on June 22nd, on that date, I'd highlighted it in red because that was the day I was supposed to get my period. So I packed my favorite tampons and pads because, as we know, traveling abroad can be a little tricky with tampons, especially when you don't have your favorite brand or whatever. But thankfully, at the last second, I was like, I won't need these for 6 days. We left on the 16th. I was like, I won't need these for 6 days. But thankfully, I ended up packing them with me on the airplane.
Oh, God.
In my head thinking, well, if anything, I can rescue some girl in her time of bleed. Like
Right.
that phone call we got about
Right.
the 13-year-old who didn't have access to any
Yeah.
pads. So I was like, if anything, I'll just be that amazing
badass woman.
stranger.
Yep.
But surprise, surprise, I get a cramp on the way to the gate.
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
God.
you've got to be kidding me.
A week early?
A week early, 6 days early, which is so weird. Maybe I was stressed out about the
Yeah.
travel, but I was like, you've got to be joking. And I'm like, thankfully I had the pad. And actually it turned out to be a huge blessing because I just put like a diaper size pad in,
Yeah.
sat in it, basically hunkered down for like a 12-hour plane ride, 6-hour layover, 2-hour plane ride, got to Russia and basically had like bled it all out.
Yeah.
So the
Got it.
Russians were in my basement before I got to Russia. So that's cool. I mean, it was fine. Like in the end, I think that I didn't have to worry about it while traveling in St. Petersburg, while going to games. You know, it was gone.
Yeah.
Didn't have to worry
That was
about
like
it.
a blessing.
But I was just like, I cannot wait to tell the girls about this. This is insane. Like on the way to the gate, I was like, oh, what's that? I thought I was like a nervous poop or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
It was bleeding.
Oh, God.
That's crazy.
But yeah, so great. That's
Yeah.
where we bled. I'm glad for that catch up.
We bled all over this great world.
New
of ours.
York, the West, and Russia. Cool.
Pretty cool.
Oh, I also forgot to mention I am Blacording
Oh,
for the first time.
Yay!
I'm feeling really good about it because I was like, when am I going to Blacord?
Man, all the other girls are Blacording before me.
Before me. New listeners, just a reminder, if you haven't heard, Blacording is when we are recording as we bleed. It's Blacording.
I mean, if people can't,
if you didn't get that,
if you can't
didn't
put
piece
that
it
together.
People.
but I feel good. I got a tampon in. I can kind of smell it, you know?
Oh, yeah,
We'll
yeah.
talk.
Oh,
I want to
boy.
do a whole episode about smell.
Me too.
God. Yeah.
Anyway.
Because I bet we're all the same. I mean, like, not that we smell the same, but I bet we all feel the same way about our smell.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think every woman does.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I kind of like it. But,
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I think that's normal to like your own
Let's save
scent.
it. Let's save it.
Yeah.
Save it. As you guys remember, longtime listeners, in episodes 2 and 3, we talked a lot about menstrual cycles, and we had this idea offline to track our cycles and then get back and report to each other with our report cards. As we know, menstrual cycles can be like vital signs, as we've learned. They're important in gauging women's health. So I'm really excited that we're going to share our findings. And I wonder if we're going to find similar things. And I know, Meg Hayes, you're on birth control.
Yes.
So technically you aren't getting cycles.
I'm getting a period bleed.
a
Or
withdrawal bleed.
Sorry,
a pill bleed.
a pill bleed.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
knowing that what's going on with you. So who wants to start? Meg Tro, want to start us off?
Sure.
Hold on. I want to track my
cycle. Strolls right off the tongue.
so good.
My cycle.
I want to track my cycle.
We'll work on
We'll
it.
figure it out. Any hoodle. Okay.
Anyways.
Meg Tro, hit us with your cycle.
Okay. So first off, I've been tracking my cycle for I think at least 2 years now because I use the Clue app.
Ooh, tell us about it.
So Clue, it's nice. I really like the design. It's very clean. And I think it's because there are some of these tracking apps that are purely for women who are trying to get pregnant. And I think this one, it kind of is for just someone who wants to track their cycle because it has your like fertility window and stuff, but it also just has like all these interesting facts and like it always tells me that it's getting smarter when I'm putting stuff in, which always makes me a little nervous. Like Clue's
It's gonna revolt.
blackmail me at some point.
I know when you have diarrhea.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Gonna steal all your pads.
Yeast infection again. Like, okay. So yeah, I've been doing it for a long time now because even when I was on birth control, my period was unpredictable. And so, which was a bummer because I get migraines, but without the headache. And so I can't be on estrogen birth controls. So because of that, I just didn't get to be on like a normal birth control. So then I was like getting like 2 periods a month. And anyway, so I started tracking it a long time ago.
You said you get migraines without the headache?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So I get this, it's called an aura. And I think there's like a more official name, but it's this thing that kind of makes me lose vision in one of my eyes. And at first it starts as like a weird rainbow halo, and then I can't see like the center, and then it kind of whites out. I actually had one at a theater meeting the other night, I was just kind of like, that's great. Just like blinking my eyes.
But it doesn't
constantly.
hurt?
No.
That's so strange.
I know.
Weird.
And my mom gets them, but then she knows that that's like in 2 hours she's going to get a migraine. And
but
for me,
you've never gotten a migraine.
Yeah. So I like asked the doctor about it. She's like, just thank your lucky stars you don't get migraines yet.
Jeez.
So, but because of that thing, they still don't want me to have estrogen
In
or like
your birth control.
additional estrogen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's fine. I got off birth control in September. And I think I thought my cycle was kind of taking its time to like readjust, but now I'm just remembering how unpredictable my period was before I was on birth control, where I was never an every 28 day kind of girl. So it's been kind of weird. So when we first started tracking a couple months ago, I was 10 days late. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm not going to have a period to talk about. But I did. And it was like, because what's weird is that we watched this video about like what happens each week of your cycle. So there's the first week or there's the week of your period. There's a week after that. There's like your ovulation part. And so I was kind of basing my period off of that. But then I was like a 5-week cycle.
Oh, crazy.
So it was all kind of off. And I was like,
maybe you are a 5-week cycle.
But then the next month I was 22 days.
So weird.
I know. So my body's weird. I should probably talk to a doctor. So I might
Share
be
your
up part
findings.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've had like cysts on my, found on my ovaries. So I
Sure.
feel like that could be part of it.
Yeah.
Anywho, first time we tracked, I was like 9 days late, 10 days late. And the week that I should have been getting my period, I was like on cloud 9. Like my energy level, I just felt amazing. Like I felt really calm. And this happened twice. There was like a month where I was 10 days late. The next month was 22 days. Then the month after that, another like 10-day late thing where again, I just felt great. And like I was in Vegas with my mom, and it was just like every outfit I put on, I was like, God, I look amazing. I was just like, I love being late. And then and it's not like my period would be heavier then. But I just noticed that higher energy the week I was late.
This is a nice bonus week you're getting.
Right?
Interesting.
And I took full advantage. I really lived my life those weeks. Lately, though, the past 2 have been exactly the same. They've come about 30 days, like in a 30-day cycle. And I've had 5 days of like light days. And then on the 6th day, I get a super heavy, crampy day.
That's how long yours go?
Yeah.
That's a long time, I feel like.
And it didn't used to be like the past couple cycles before that. It wasn't like that. It was
But
like maybe 4 days.
you recently went off birth control within the last like 7 or 8 months or more, right?
I think it's going on 10 months
okay,
now.
so maybe like this is still your body just like readjusting.
Maybe, or like I said, even before birth control, I had a weird period.
Yeah.
So I think I might just have a weird period.
Okay.
But it is interesting now that I've had the same period twice. Where
yeah,
it's
that
like
is interesting.
light day, light day, light day, light day. I'm going to kill you.
So bizarre.
Yeah.
Right?
That many light days?
Yeah, leading up to
mean.
a heavy.
That's
That's just mean.
That's just cruel.
And each time I've been like, oh, maybe it's just a light period. How that's nice. And then
Psych.
suck it. Yeah. So it's been pretty annoying. But also, like I said, I feel like she's putting on a show now. So she's like, I'm going to give you something to talk about. And I'm like, I don't need that. We have plenty to talk about.
I love this voice you're giving to your period.
Right. My like hard period who drinks Fernet. And then she's like, I just think you like, you paint me so mean.
She sounds like a bitch.
Our
She's a
periods
bitch.
need to conference.
Okay, Meg, want to talk about your
Yes.
cycle as someone who is still on birth control, but
I am
I'm
on the
curious.
BC. Yeah, you know me.
Remind us what kind of birth control you're on.
I'm on microgestin.
The pill.
So my, like I said, my period typically starts the Tuesday of my pill week, my placebo week. Which, did I tell you guys that those are iron tablets?
Oh.
You did. Is that true?
In microgestin it is.
Okay.
The person at the pharmacy told me. And I believe him.
Right.
So
He was a man in a coat.
he had a white coat. So I also bought drugs from him.
I think that makes sense because when
Other
you
drugs.
bleed, you kind of like, you crave iron, right?
Sure,
like that's why people
sure.
want burgers.
Right, with
and
burgers.
stuff.
Yeah. So now I have, I think I counted eight birth control packets spread all over my apartment. That's 8 months worth of packets. I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever thrown a packet away because it's like, this one has 2 iron pills. This one has 5 iron pills. Because I always forget that week to take it because I'm like, I don't need to listen to my alarm.
Yeah.
I look like an insane person. They are stacked like
packets.
it's really bad.
Are you
Anyway.
gonna just throw them out, or are you like hoarding them
Kate,
for
I'm
an
not gonna
ironless
waste-
week?
I'm not gonna waste iron pills.
All right.
You never know when you're gonna need iron.
That's true. And there's
Also,
no other
I'm
way
a-
to get it than these little pills.
I'm also a vegetarian, so I feel like I should just take one every
I
day.
feel like you should consult a doctor before you do any of this. Just take extra iron. Megan's gonna show up like really strong one day, jacked. We're like, what the fuck?
Do you guys need any furniture moved? Okay, so when I was bleeding, I focused on my energy level, my BMs, which I also think whenever we do a period poops episode, we should track our bowel movements during our period.
I love it.
Interesting.
Right?
I'm also unpredictable in
Okay,
that
because you
area,
guys,
but-
day 1 or 2 of my period, when I tracked for this was a couple months ago, but I had a very large, healthy BM, but I
Nice.
also
Congratulations.
wrote in parentheses, also hangover, because I had been drinking a lot of alcohol the night before.
When I have hangovers, I get diarrhea.
You do?
Yeah.
Ah. Wait, when you get hangovers, you have nice poops?
Yeah.
What? Who are you?
Yeah, you're.
you guys.
It's all the iron she's taking.
I guess so.
But I also, and then I had a healthy libido and low energy. Yeah, day 3 and 4, I started to feel better. But day 4, I had broken BMs, and day 5. Then
I also love how you say BMs. I feel like
yeah.
that's such like a Midwestern aunt
Yes.
would say.
Yeah.
How are your BMs?
What I realized in tracking my period was not necessarily a lot of new information about my period, but it was new information about my stress and energy levels. Because what I realized looking through, I was like, oh, I was pretty low energy this month. Like, I was feeling stressed. Day 15, which is like right when I would be ovulating,
But
I was
you
in a
wouldn't be.
bad I was in a bad mood. And then I started to kind of pick up a little bit, but basically for most of there was a lot of like low energy moments throughout that whole month. So that was helpful because I have been seeing a therapist, and I've been mentioning to her that I have had some issues with energy levels, and she asked me to start tracking my period to see if there were any cycles that we could start paying attention to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear more about your tracker.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I think there are
like
mood
it.
trackers, but it's also interesting to do some. I think some apps have like a mood section where you can be
so
like,
does
"This is how
Clue
I was
does.
feeling that day."
Yeah, Clue
Okay.
does.
Happy, sensitive, sad, PMS.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, why not all of the above?
Right.
Yeah, it just makes me think about looking into microdresting and seeing if one of the side effects is like low energy.
Yeah.
So that was helpful in a completely different way. Like
Yeah.
I didn't think that would be the outcome, but so it's interesting to see a trend of like, oh, okay, I was feeling really good this day, but then I started to go back down and then up again. So
So are you saying that you're suggesting that our listeners might do the same?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think it can give you a lot of information. Like it could give you information on your BMs too. Like, oh, I
Stop saying BMs.
like,
Just
oh,
say poop.
Yeah.
Like-
poo is a really cute way to say BM too. You know, like,
well, like, oh, maybe I haven't been eating that healthy. Like
Yeah.
I'm realizing,
Yes.
oh, this whole month I had issues with regularity. Or,
There's a whole app for tracking your poops.
That's awesome.
It's called. I don't think it's called this, but I wish it were called the Log.
Oh, that'd be really
But
nice.
it's not. I think it's called something like stool tracker or something.
Ugh.
But I always
Wow.
called it the Log.
Yeah.
This is so much better.
So much better.
So for my cycle. So if you guys remember episode 3, I revealed all of that mind-blowing knowledge about what happens to your cycle on birth control. And then I decided because of my personal situation, I could go off birth control since I was in a committed relationship and, trying not to get pregnant per se, but maybe if we do, that's okay. And also, I was re-listening to that episode, side note, and I feel like I didn't make it clear enough that like people are on birth control to not get pregnant. And like a lot of what we talked about was like, oh, you know, it couldn't like cover up what's really wrong with you. And if you have acne, maybe think, but like honestly, freaking do whatever you want.
Of course.
People don't want to get pregnant when they're young or sometimes ever, and that's fine. So like no judgment, no matter what. Just wanted to reiterate that. But so I was really excited to get off birth control and like embrace my cycle and like what is me and who am I, and I was also worried maybe I won't get it or it'll be irregular because I've been on birth control for like at this point like 8 years or something. Turns out I'm clockwork, you guys. I'm so clockwork, and I have a great period. I'm happy with it. My period and I are like BFFs right now.
Wow.
But basically, I'm having 3-day periods.
Wow.
And 28-day cycles. So I'm like what everyone kind of says is like the average.
Best period ever.
Yeah.
If I knew for sure that would be my period off of birth control, I would definitely consider.
Well, I don't know though, because this last one came 6 days early. So
That's
whatever.
true.
But so I think I mentioned this in the episode where I had just recently gone off it, that I'm super horny, and I'm so grateful for that, because I think I had sort of chalked up my low libido to like just being in a kind of a long-term relationship, but it's not true anymore. Dad, I hope you're listening to this episode still. Sorry about
Welcome,
that.
Andrew.
Hi, Andrew. Cool. One thing I heard about birth control that I remember my doctor telling me way back, and that was so true for me, and maybe not for all women, but that when you take certain kinds of birth control, hormonal birth control, you're really sensitive to the sun. And you get burned easily.
Yeah,
that happened to me all the time. So I noticed that when I was on birth control, like no matter what, if I was in the sun for like 10 minutes on my lunch break without sunscreen, I would get lobster red.
Wow.
And which was good because it trained me to wear sunscreen all the time.
Yeah.
Right? That's not happening anymore. So that's good. I'm still wearing sunscreen, but I'm definitely not like, if I miss a spot like on my wrist, that little strip is no longer red.
Right.
You know? Because that was happening. I'm getting cramps more than I used to, which makes sense because before I had reported to you that I don't really get cramps, but that's because I was on birth control. But they're still not bad. They're like, you know, for a couple hours in the morning. And I did feel it in my lower back for the first time, which was like, we talked about this. I'm getting a lower back. Like, it's so funny because a lot of this is like, I'm excited about the cramps. I'm like, we talked about this.
Yeah.
So my sister Katie Hayes told me, Katie, I hope you're okay with me sharing this, that she feels cramps in her thighs.
Oh, crazy,
which we talked about.
Crazy.
And we had never discussed this before.
Fingers crossed that I feel that next time.
Fingers crossed.
Okay. I feel like my hair and skin gets glowy and like better right before I start ovulating. And I think in the last episode when we talked to Allison, you guys said that my hair and skin looked nice.
That's
and
true.
And I think that's the same. Actually, the other day at work, someone was like, Kate, you're glowing. And I just said, I think I'm ovulating. Said it really loud. I think my feet swell on my period.
Weird.
I noticed that my feet twice recently, I feel like my shoes just feel a little tight. And at first I thought, because I just bought new shoes, they were the exact same size and brand. And I was like, did I buy the wrong size by accident? But I really just think like for a minute my feet swell. And I looked it up, and that is a side effect.
Weird.
Sometimes. But so yeah, my moods, again, I'm like happy about that. My moods, I think, are more, I have more mood swings without birth control. But I kind of like it. It feels like I'm more in charge of myself, and I'm more powerful. Like PMS depression for me has been like super real. Like maybe it's like 4 to 5 days leading up to it, I am like in a just really, really sad and like down on myself. And that's been the case for like the last like however many months I've been tracking it off birth control. It's crazy, but I sort of like it. I sort of like being like, this is why. I know my hormones are like dropping or whatever. I know what's coming. And like I've warned my husband about it, and I'm like, I'm sad, and that's okay right now. It's okay that I'm sad. Let me get through it. And like today I got my period, and I just felt good all of a sudden. Like I was like, my mood had totally switched. I felt like heavy and kind of like blah, but like mentally I was way more with it. So I'm like, this is so interesting to me.
And it's nice to feel all the emotions, right?
Yeah.
To feel like maybe
normal.
you were stinted before and you weren't fully like...
Yeah. Or I don't think it was as predictable. Like my husband says, oh yeah, but you were moody on birth control. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Like first of all...
peanut gallery.
No one asked you.
but I don't remember it being so predictable. And I don't remember it being like I can pinpoint that like I feel really good here and not good here. And like, so that's cool. I am genuinely like, I've been looking forward to my periods and like,
nice.
So yeah.
Well, and then on those days you can be like, I'm gonna make sure I exercise today. I'm gonna make sure I get enough sun today.
Yeah, and on the days I know where I'm gonna be down, I've been telling myself like just stay busy, because like if I'm not busy, I'm just sitting at my desk at work being like I'm a failure. But if I'm like, you know, if I make myself a to-do list and like cross stuff off, it's been real. I'm really excited about it, and it's so goofy and silly.
It's wonderful.
Thanks.
Nice.
But yeah, me and my period are like, we're friends, man. We're like getting through it together.
Can your period call my period?
Yeah.
We all
That'd be
need to
great.
conference. I feel like I've missed my period. I wish he would come back.
Aww.
But then I really don't want to go off birth control.
You're gonna regret that.
I don't miss you that much. I'm not buying that one-way ticket. Sorry.
So yeah, those were all of our cycles, and that was so interesting to hear. And listeners, please call us if you want to share how your cycle is. If you're also in birth control and just kind of want to share what's going on with you, let us know.
Yeah.
Super interested to hear about people's cycles.
Yeah. I want to know how many people are like clockwork and how many people are.
Yeah.
I want to know if I like am super weird or if there's a lot of people who have like unpredictable cycles.
Well, I know people that have had IUDs have very interesting stories about bleeding for 9 days, you know, like bleeding lightly for half of the month. I don't know. I know that you had an IUD.
I did. It's been at least 5 years since I've had the IUD.
Okay. And I know you had some weirdness with it. I mean, was your cycle also, was it weird in a different way when you had your IUD?
I had the IUD, I basically like bled or spotted every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like sometimes they say it takes up to a year for you to adjust.
Oh my God.
Because
that's
it's like,
fucking
you know,
insane.
something
A year
going
to adjust
up through your cervix.
We
It's
don't have that
crazy.
kind of time.
I don't have that kind of time. No, and like, just all the birth controls I had have been kind of, I only have done pill or IUD, and the first IUD I had started coming out. And so they had to like pull it out and replace it. But the replacement process was, I think because they thought since I'd already had one, they were like, oh, no problem. We'll just jam it up there.
Oh, God.
It was so painful. I was crying. The first time I had it put in, I had like a nurse holding my hand, and the doctor was like really like gentle and patient, and I was like totally ready. Second time, she's just like ram. And then like eventually she's like, do you need a minute? Like she was really impatient with me. And I'm like crying, and I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna try one more time. And I think just something, my cervix was like, okay, let's just get through this real fast.
Oh
And
my God.
all my genitalia has some sort of voice I attach to it. My cervix talks like this.
Horrible.
And your period is
My
like
period's this, girl.
So it's so interesting that we're talking about this, because I wanted to go to a phone call we got, and it has to do with this. So let's listen to our first phone call.
Okay. I love phone calls.
Hello. I am calling just to talk about my super powerful period. So I had a baby almost a year ago, and so soon afterwards I was like, I'm getting an IUD because I don't want to have another baby anytime soon. And I did. But then soon after that, I started getting these terrible ovarian cysts and just like having awful periods. So my doctor said was I had this like crazy powerful period that was like breaking through the IUD, and that I needed to double up on my birth control and also use a NuvaRing. So I use both types of birth control now to try to prevent having any period at all, and I still get like this tiny rude little period from time to time, but I don't have the ovarian cysts anymore, so that's good. But yeah. Cheers. Bye.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers to being a woman
Right.
that bleeds.
Wow. God
Wow,
bless
that's
you.
crazy. So when I had the IUD, that was the first time they found ovarian cysts on me.
What the heck?
And my gyno said that sometimes like the IUD can cause them.
What?
And I'm like, oh, but then I feel like I still have them. So yeah, anyways,
That's crazy. So what? Wait, remind me what the NuvaRing is.
It's like a ring like that you
a clear
push
ring.
up into like around your cervix.
But isn't that what an IUD is?
No.
What's the IUD?
So the IUD is a little T that they put in your uterus.
Oh,
It,
okay.
like, goes all the way
got
into
it.
your uterus.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, I think I confused the two. Okay. Wowzers.
Wow.
Dude,
Wow.
that's really rough.
Girl, that sounds tough.
And I love that she says her has a rude period.
Yeah.
So like your period's a bitch.
Yep.
Mine is chill. And
Mine
hers
is
is rude.
Hers is rude, and mine is neglecting me.
Yours is in a coma. Oh man, God, I can't imagine being on 2 birth controls. Like,
what a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
That's why you do
This is why we
IUDs.
need male birth control right now.
Yes.
Wow.
So we don't have to have
She had a period so strong it was bleeding through her
Yeah.
IUD.
Right. And like depending,
Or
because I know,
did you say it was pushing it out?
no.
I think it just like was persevering.
I see.
Because it's true. They say like, especially with the Mirena, which is the plastic one with hormones, it's supposed to like potentially stop your period. Where with the copper one can actually make your period worse.
Oh
Louise.
God. These are our options?
Yeah.
This
It really
is making me so
sucks.
upset. God bless you. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to play another phone call we got that has to also sort of do with going off birth control and then dealing with the periods. So let me play that one.
I wanted to talk to you guys about stopping taking the pill and not getting your period. You can stop taking the pill and not get your period for months and months and months. And then it coming back when you have sex again. Someone told me this when I was going off the pill, and I was like, that's really weird. And then, sure enough, I had some sex, and my period came back right away. So what does that mean? What does that mean, you guys?
Yes, that is a great question.
Very good question.
And I didn't know that was the case, and I looked it up. I did a little Google search.
Well, a little bleed search.
A little bleed search. Turns out that having sex can help trigger your period.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's
Crazy.
something that's totally normal. Because it says here, according to an article in Healthline,
hey, Healthline.
It's not the Mayo Clinic.
it turns out that semen contains this word, prostaglandins, which,
of course.
which act upon the woman's cervix, causing it to soften and dilate.
What?
And when a woman has an orgasm, this also causes her cervix to dilate, and this all causes a vacuum that can pull the menstrual blood down.
Whoa.
So there you go. So there you go.
Cool. Thanks,
Thank
caller.
you. Wow.
And then there's another call I wanted to play, and this was referring to our second episode about euphemisms.
Oh, yes.
So I want to tell a quick story. I was writing a press release for a show I was working on that had a woman discuss having her period in the show. And we said period several times in the press release. But our press person came back to us and said, is there a euphemism we can use instead of saying period? And we sat around and thought about it. And the thing is, we realized period is a euphemism. Like, that's not a medical term. That is no, like, that's not like part of, like what, like it's just, I'm on my period. Like, that it's sort of meaningless. We all attribute it and know now that it means I am menstruating. It was kind of a terrible thing, like to have this 60-something-year-old man turn around to us women and tell all of us as part of this women's festival that he didn't want to use the word period when we were talking about a play that had to do with a period.
Wow.
That is such a good point.
Such a
Very
good point.
good point.
Blew all of our minds, Claire.
Yeah, thank you, Claire. Also, hi, Claire Rice.
We love you.
Friend of the podcast and also host to FMK Lit, another great podcast.
Great. Check it out.
Just throwing that out there.
That is such a good point
Wow.
about that is a euphemism.
It is.
But man, that really stinks. I wonder
it
what
does
happened with that
stink.
press release if she ended up
And that man that
yeah.
was helping out with this women's festival.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
get out of here.
Get out of here.
And then also, I also want to tell you guys this really funny story. So about euphemisms, as part of my global trip to Russia and how wonderful that was, I also went to Sweden for a couple days because we just wanted to see another country. And Carl, my husband, his family's from Sweden, and we met up with a bunch of his old coworkers that now live in Sweden that are Swedish, and I was telling them about the podcast because, Sweden is very women-friendly country.
Yeah.
It's a really good society for women. And so I was like, oh, these women will be so interested in this podcast. So I was telling them about it, and they are, and I hope they're listening.
Hi, Sweden.
Hi, Sweden. And then I was like, oh, I wonder. So I asked them if they have any euphemisms for period, because in our episode we talk about what one is for Sweden, but I didn't want to like ask them. I wanted to see if it came up. Then they were like, I guess we say time of the month. I guess we say, and then they go, oh well, Lingonberry week, obviously. You're like, we heard about this.
It tracks.
And I was like, I thought so, but I wasn't gonna ask because I thought that'd be the offensive American being like, do you guys say Lingonberry week?
I don't even know what the hell that is.
It's the stuff that goes with meatballs. It's like a sauce, like a jammy, fruity sauce that goes with meatballs.
You can get some at IKEA.
Yeah, but my research then was accurate. They did say that it's something that like it's a little old fashioned. It's something like maybe their moms would have said, but it's definitely in their vernacular. So yeah, those were just some phone calls we've been getting over the last couple days and weeks. So keep calling us, you guys. Questions, comments.
9106 uterus, 9106 uterus. Tell us how you bleed like us at 9106 uterus.
9106 uterus, call it in. For our final segment of this week's podcast, let's talk about why we cried. You guys, we've been gone. We haven't been sharing our tear stories, so let's do it. Should we do our song?
Of
course.
Okay, so here's our segment, Why I Cried This Week.
Why did I cry this week? Nobody's supposed to be here. When I talk about why I cried this week.
Ooh, yeah. Me thinking about telling you why I cried is making me cry.
Oh boy, you go first then. Meg T.
Nanette, you guys, get on Netflix and watch Nanette. It is a stand-up special by Hannah Gadsby. And a lot of people are talking about it, so do not wait. Watch it right now.
Okay.
It should be required viewing. It is, because it is funny. It is 80% funny. Like, if I'm watching something by myself, I never laugh out loud. I laughed out loud on multiple occasions, but she will just break you in half. I felt vulnerable. I watched the second half of it in bed, and I had to pause it multiple times to just weep.
Oh my God.
I was a wreck. And then everyone now I'm talking to about it, like, we just get on these epic long text threads just talking about it. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's just, she tackles everything, but she mainly tackles like toxic masculinity and misogyny. And she's a queer woman, so she also just talks about like dealing with the persecution of being a gay woman, and so it's just, but I want to say this line, but then I don't want to say this line because I want you to experience it for the first time when you watch it.
All right.
I will say even the trailer was poignant.
Yeah. She's brilliant. She tackles like misogyny in art history, and like she goes at comedy. Like, part of it is that she's like talking about how she has to quit comedy, and like, oh, you guys, it's so
You're
good.
selling this hard. I'm gonna go home and watch it.
Go watch it.
Right.
It is.
We should all watch it together and cry. It's the new Coco.
I will not watch this on a plane. I will never recover.
Meg H, why'd you cry?
The only thing I could think of was I saw my therapist on Monday, and I was feeling great on Monday. I was like, there's no way I'm going to cry. And I didn't cry, but I totally choked up a little bit. I was like, God damn it, she's good. And I was on cloud nine. How does she do it? But yeah, I've been on vacation. I've had very few reasons to cry for the last month.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah,
and
it's been
sometimes
great.
It's okay to cry. I mean, it's always okay to cry.
I cried plenty. It was nice to have a couple weeks off.
I had two things. I'll get the first one out of the way. Do you guys ever wake up from a dream crying?
I wake up from a dream, maybe not with actual tears on my face, but like the act of crying.
No.
I feel like
so I wake up with like moist eyes, like that have been like trapped by my closed eyelids.
Got it.
This one, I woke up because I had a dream that my husband Carl was making fun of Meg Hayes for making a sandwich incorrectly. No. And in the dream, I'm defending Meg Hayes and yelling at Carl, being like, stop making fun of her. She's just making a sandwich. And all of these feelings. And I woke up crying.
That is absurd.
I feel so touched.
I got you, girl. I got you.
Screw you, Carl.
Nice.
But the main reason I cried this week was just all of the love and the soccer in the World Cup, you guys. You all know how I feel about when people come together, when collective humanity has a shared experience and they act on it. Hashtag coming together for soccer was my Instagram hashtag. Check it out on Instagram if you want. I just basically collected like all of the heartwarming moments that I saw, because it's just, I think soccer and football gets a really bad rap for, corruption and racism, obviously horrible things, and all the politics that sort of come with when you have like geopolitical differences. But like the fans are just there for the sport, and all these fans that have flown across the world to be in Russia, and you're in a place together, and some people are wearing their country's jerseys. Other people are like adopting a country, for whatever reason. Like the U.S. didn't play in the World Cup. So like Carl and I sometimes are wearing Costa Rica or Sweden or Germany or rooting for Colombia. And like, it was just so wonderful to all be together. And you see like rivals hug each other and high five each other. It was just really wonderful. Before every game, before they do the anthems, they bring out these ginormous flags of the teams. And they march out.
Huge.
They march out, so like take up the whole field basically.
Yeah.
And they're like kids that are holding these flags, and they're holding them so still while the music is playing, and then all the anthems go, and it's like just so and everyone's singing their anthem, and like it's just, and some songs don't, or some anthems don't have words, so the fans are just like yelling the tune, and it's just like so much love. There's just so much pomp and circumstance, and like collective like rehearsal and production that has to go into these big spectacles, and it was just like everything just made me cry. And then the Shakira Waka Waka song from the 2010 World Cup played all the time. And that song is so problematic because it's like a white Latin American singer singing like an African song. I don't care. I'm the first to say
I love that song.
I love that song. And every time it played, I teared up again. For Africa. It was just a lot of those moments in World Cup, and I'm just so grateful that I was able to be there.
It was amazing. It was so fun to follow your trip.
Hey, before we go, we are taking your stories about tampons. We want to do an episode about the cultural taboos surrounding tampons. So if you grew up under a religion or a parent or instruction, a culture that told you never to wear tampons, we want to hear from you. Call us, 910-6-UTERUS, and we'll include some of your stories on the air. So that's our episode.
Covered a lot of territory.
Covered a lot of stuff.
Did.
I hope you guys enjoyed our episode. Please remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram.
Hey, you know what would be great is if you like our podcast, you go on iTunes and you rate us 5 stars and you write a review about what you like about us. And remember, keep calm.
And tampon.
It may be primal, it may be vital, but it makes you homicidal. It's a vicious, it's a vicious, it's a vicious cycle.
Our theme song was performed by The Go Ahead. Check out more at thegoaheadmusic.com.